Okay, so today we're going to talk about the major scale and how to build it. The major scale is a really important part of Western music. A lot of our Western harmony is built off of this structure and the relationships within it. And I'll talk about that at greater length another day, but we're just going to talk about how to build the major scale. So we're going to start off with our chromatic scale. So our chromatic scale is all 12 notes that we use in Western music. Everything comes from here. The other thing we need to know is these two intervals. Intervals are the distances between two notes. So the smallest one is called a semitone. So that would be only one note distance in the chromatic scale. The second is called a tone, and that would be two notes apart on the chromatic scale. So when we're building the major scale, we use a set formula, a pattern of tones and semitones to build every major scale. And every major scale follows the same formula. So we're going to start with these three today. So we're going to begin with the C major scale. So if we follow the formula, the first jump we're going to make is a tone. So starting at C, we're going to hop over 2 on our chromatic scale, and our next note is D. Some notes have more than one name. We're going to default to the regular alphabet. We're not going to worry about sharps and flats just yet. So the next leap is another tone. So we're going to go over 2 from there, and that takes us to E. The next jump is a semitone. So that's only one note over. So we're just going to go to the next note, and then we end up with the pitch F. The next jump will be a tone again, so we're going to go over 2, 1, 2, and we end up with G. The next leap is a tone again. So we run out of notes on our card of 12 notes here. But everything in music, when you get to the end, you just go back to the beginning and the notes continue on. So our first jump will be 1, and then the second one's going to take us all the way back to A. So our next jump is A. Tone above A is going to take us to B, and then that last semitone, if you've done everything right, should take you back home to where you started. So we did the C major scale, that last semitone should take you back to where you started. The next key we're going to do is the G major scale. So we're going to follow the exact same formula. The only difference is we're going to start in a different place. So if we start at G, the first jump is a tone, so 1, and then 2 takes us back to A, tone again, 1, 2, and then our next note's going to be a B. Now we have our semitone, so we're only going to move over 1 this time, landing on the note C. Our next jump is a tone, 1, 2, taking us to D. Then we have another tone, 1, 2, bringing us to E. And now we have another tone, so we're going to go 1, 2, ah. So we've come across a spot where we don't have just a regular note of our musical alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G is our musical alphabet, and in between we have sharps and flats. So this note could have 2 potential names. What we're going to go with is F sharp and not G flat. The reason for that is when you're building a major scale, you want to use each letter name only once. And since we're playing the G major scale, G has been used up already, but we had no F note taken yet. So we're going to call it F sharp instead of G flat. This confuses a lot of players because why would you have 2 names? Well, it makes it easier because when you're looking at music on sheet music, so the staff, as we call it, have those 5 lines, treble clef or bass clef, depending on the instrument you're playing. It keeps everything neat and tidy, organized that way. Just extend the staff a little bit. Otherwise, we'd have to have a G flat and a G. those two notes would occupy the same space, and we'd have to constantly bounce back and forth, G flat, G natural, G flat, G natural, where this way we keep them evenly spread out. One note per line or space makes it a lot easier to read. So long story short, in this case we're going to use F sharp instead of G flat. So the next key we're going to move over to is F major. So we're going to do that pattern one more time. I'm sure you have the idea of it by now, but we're going to start in a different place. So now we're going to begin on F. So first jump is going to be a tone, 1, 2, taking us to G. Then we have another tone, 1, 2, taking us to A. Now the next jump is a semitone again, so just one over. So now we have two options again, A sharp or B flat. We are going to go with B flat, because as I mentioned a moment ago, we use each letter name only once in a major scale. So we've already used A, so we're not going to call it A sharp, we're going to call it B flat, just to keep things easy to read. Next jump above B flat is a tone again, 1, 2. So there's C, tone again, 1, 2, brings us to D, tone again, 1, 2, and we have E, and then that last semitone, everything's cool, brings us home to F where we started. So that is building the major scale and how you get all the notes. So some keys have sharps, some have flats. It all depends on where you start, because the formula is the same for every single major scale. So we have 12 notes on that chromatic scale. You can start that major scale pattern in 12 different places and get all your major scales.